Welcome, everyone. This is Jessie Sloan, the DPI CTE data consultant, and today's presentation will be Career and Technical Education Data Reporting Workshop for the 21-22 school year, and this is in collaboration with Skyward's Qmlative program. So just a quick agenda of what we're going to cover is we're going to go over CTE course reporting and setup. We're going to talk about participants, advanced opportunities, which include AP, International Baccalaureate, dual enrollment. We're going to talk about Cte Concentrator reporting for Carl Perkins. And we will also cover certified and non-certified program reporting, which will include the new work-based learning criteria. So with that, I'm going to real quickly turn this over to Qmlative to do quick introductions, and then we will begin with Cte updates.
Hi, I'm Andrea Tepp. I'm with Skyward, and I work mainly with the Qmlative side. And we also have Katie here, who also works with Skyward.
Hello.
All right, thank you. So the first thing we're going to start out with is some CTE updates from DPI. So on this screen, and I will send out the presentation, so you have these all as links. But the first thing is the CTE Data Resources webpage. And this is a webpage that I created last spring to have all of the resources that you would need for Carl Perkins CTE career education reporting, including other documentation that goes into Carl Perkins grant. Also on that webpage, there is quite a few short recorded trainings with slide decks. So if you want to break some of this up into like quick 10-minute trainings, I have those archived on that CTE Data Resources webpage. And that is also a webpage that I will continue to update with data resources for this work. Next is the CTE Data Office Hours that I host the first Thursday of each month from 2 to 3:45. And you can find the link either going through the professional development, which is right below, or you can link it from the CTE Data Resources page. And that is an hour and 45 minutes the first Thursday of each month that any school can pop on a call and talk to me. There is no planned presentation during that time. It's definitely ask me questions and I will help problem solve and look for solutions for your WISE data errors and warnings, as well as how to collect your CTE data for the purpose of using WISE. Next is the 22-23 professional development. So new to DPI and me coming in new, I've created an entire year's worth of short trainings that will happen once a month for 45 minutes after school. And so when you click on this link, you will see track 2 is called Cte Data and Accountability. And so once a month, I will offer a 45-minute training at the end of the school day from 3 to 3:45 about the different aspects and different things that you should be doing each month for CTE data collection. And those are available for anyone to join. Next is the Cte Participants WISE data element. So we are in Perkins 5 legislation now, and we updated the Cte Participant Definition in our WISE data collection to match that of Perkins 5. And so just so everybody's aware that starting in the 21-22 school year, which was last school year, a student is identified as a Cte participant if they are in grades 9 through 12, enrolled in a Cte course, and must have completed and passed the Cte course. So that is what has changed starting last school year, that a participant is defined by completed and passed a Cte course in high school. Next is the work-based learning WISE data element. At the end of the school year, we created a brand new web page for work-based learning. We very much understand that it's confusing, understanding work-based learning. So I'm hoping that that page helps districts understand how work-based learning is collected for both Carl Perkins and for school report cards, because each is a little bit different. So that here is the link for you. And on that web page, we do go over the last 3 years of collection, as it has changed a few times. And this year moving forward, I hope it no longer changes, as we anticipate having everything, all the bugs worked out of that. And so we'll go over that more in depth later in the presentation. I also have the work-based learning academic career planning webpage on here, because that goes over the 6 criteria that you would need to meet in your course to even consider it as work-based learning. And then WISE Data Portal errors. You'll notice that DPI turns errors on and off at certain times of the year. I just wanted to make everybody aware that in July, we did turn on both of these errors, error 6800 and error 6796. So if you left for summer break and these were not errors, but now you come back and you're checking and you see that you have invalid IAC code error or multiple Cte Concentrator summaries submitted, that's because we turned them on in July and ran your data through that. So just be aware that, that those might be popping up. All right, so we're going to start off by talking about Cte participants. In Perkins 5, Cte participants are a secondary or high school student who has successfully completed or passed at least one Cte course in the reporting year. And we are going to be specifically focusing on the reporting year of 2021 because the snapshot is going to take place on December 6th. So we would like you to double check your WISE Data Portal export called Cte Participants export, or review the Cte Participants in WISE Dash for District in your Perkins dashboard. This is used for Carl Perkins and civil rights compliance. And remember that these definitions are accessible through the WISE Data Portal exports and available on the Wisconsin DPI Cte web pages that I do have already included in this presentation. So as long as you have Cte courses properly identified in your SIS through the correct roster state codes, and you have students scheduled into those courses, then you should be seeing participants on your WISE Data export called participants. If you do not have participants in WISE Data Portal, the first thing you need to do is go in and check your roster state codes that you're using in Qmlative to make sure that you have the correct Cte version of those codes. And when Qmlative takes over, we will show you that. Also, this week, yesterday or today, I believe, DPI has begun to start their quality checks on WISE Data. And so we are sending out a mass email to remind schools to check their participant export, their concentrator export, and their certified, non-certified export to make sure information is populating. All right, so this all begins with a course. So defining the Cte course and having correct roster state sched codes is the most important thing about completing Cte data. A Cte course, again, is a secondary or high school course that is offered through one of the 6 recognized Wisconsin Cte programs that are listed here on this slide. In addition, the course must also be taught by an appropriately licensed Cte instructor within that specific discipline or area. And there are multiple pathways to obtaining licensure in Cte, including an experience-based pathway, So I'm not going to go into detail about how to obtain CTE licensure during this presentation, but I do need to make everyone aware that a teacher does need to hold a CTE license for the course to be even considered CTE. And then also specifically for Carl Perkins, there are specific health science licensing issues. And so we just need you to be aware if you are coding health science courses or if you're not understanding CTE licensing, that we do have assistance here at DPI to help you out. And you can either contact our DPI licensing team or anyone on our CTE team, and we can help you with that. So these are the 6 departments in Wisconsin that are recognized as CTE. So agricultural and natural resources, business and information technology, family and consumer science, health science, marketing management and entrepreneurship, and the last one is technology and engineering. Art and music and world language are not part of CTE. We're going to focus on data being ready for the December 6th snapshot. So again, the snapshot's on December 6th of 2022, and that will cover the 21-22 school year. So you can use this training to think ahead for the new school year and when you begin creating or cloning courses for future years, but we're really focusing on getting all of our data correct so we're ready for the snapshot in December. To begin our review of CTE data reporting elements required for the 21-22 school year, let's start with what should be the very first step of your CTE data reporting process, and that is going to be reporting and setting up your CTE courses. So districts should continue to report all CTE course offerings in grades 9 through 12 for the 21-22 school year. The CTE courses link on this slide brings you to a DPI webpage that has an Excel file for roster state SCED codes. 21-22 used SCED 8, and the current school year of 22-23 will use SCED 9. SCED is a column in the download, in the Excel download, and so that's often just a way of reading roster codes or SCED codes. To report a course as CTE, districts must use a course description identified as CTE in the course setup. There is a column in the courses download that informs you if a course description is CTE. In some instances, this may be built directly into your student information system, but it's still important to know and understand how to read the courses download and how it relates to CTE course setup. And the reason of learning how to use that Excel spreadsheet is because teachers typically do not have student management access and the setting up of courses. And many teachers in CTE go in and help select the roster state SCED codes that should be used because they are the ones that created the curriculum, and that code needs to be representational of the curriculum that they are teaching. It's also important when it comes to the Carl Perkins grant to ensure that, again, we have properly marked courses based on the curriculum that they're teaching. The courses download does offer course codes for CTE courses and non-CTE courses. So make sure you're using CTE course codes for courses taught by CTE teachers only, and that's specifically for high school. So you're oftentimes will say only CTE courses should be coded with a CTE flagged course. And what I mean by flagged is, I'll show you in a little bit the Excel spreadsheet, and there literally is a column that says CTE and it says yes. Also, when we go into WISE Data Portal and we review our course offerings export, there's also a column for CTE, and we should be double checking that our CTE courses are coming through and that that column also says yes or true for CTE. If we realize we have no CTE courses and no participants populating, then we know we didn't pick the CTE version of a code. Okay. So why is this so important? It has to do with Carl Perkins reporting, that's federal reporting, as well as civil rights compliance, and then the reports that we at the state put together to review what schools are teaching. And the only way that I can tell when we run the data that it's CTE is if it's properly marked using a CTE roster state sched code. If it's not, then I totally skip over it and just assume it's taught by somebody else. That's the only way that I can tell that it's CTE is if you use those CTE marked codes. So each course also has rigor assigned to it. So education teams should lay out their department or course sequence to determine the level of rigor for a course. This is important for strategic planning, for school improvement, but it's also very important for Carl Perkins, as sometimes we have layers of classes that students need to work through, and we need to make sure that we are accurately defining the level of rigor as part of that roster state sched code. So work with your instructional teams when you're determining rigor, and each code associates to a level of rigor. So you'll see right here, if you are reading sched codes end with a letter, and each letter determines rigor. So X is now no specific level. H is honors, G is general or regular, E is enriched or advanced, and B is basic. And I'll show you later, but if you were reading roster, there's just a numerical hierarchy, which translates to these. Right, the next part of creating courses is also setting up the performance conversion based type. And this is really easy because there's usually not anything in particular you really need to do except grade the class. So performance conversion based type is an data element that DPI does collect. We don't collect A, B, C, D, F grades. We just need you to grade graded classes, and we need to know if a student is pass and fail. That's our completion status. Our performance conversion based type is just basically converting grades into pass fail. That's it. Okay. So we use this for calculating CTE participants, because if you remember a few slides back, I talked about CTE participant definition being completed and passed, and that's what we use performance conversion based type for in Carl Perkins. Other areas might use it also to determine how well our state is doing in courses. So again, the school just needs to ensure that their CTE courses are being graded and that a grade is submitted in time for the December snapshot. So we are not looking at specific letter grades, pass, fail, or competency-based grading. That is completely in local control. We just need a final grade on the CTE course to be submitted. And then we do not collect study hall. So if you have courses like study hall or certain intervention times, we don't collect that. Those usually are not graded. All right. Next is college and career readiness. This is reporting what the school report card calls advanced opportunities. Advanced opportunities are credit when we give credit for participation in dual enrollment, advanced placement, or international baccalaureate, and we collect this for grades 9 through 12. Okay, so in a little bit, I'll show you an organization method, But we need to get this information from our teachers to know if our courses meet any of this. The courses download will have specific codes for AP, Advanced Placement, and International Baccalaureate. Dual enrollment is a program area and will be identified in the course setup. So work with your teachers again to make sure you understand if a course is being taught dual enrollment, Advanced Placement, or International Baccalaureate. Just so you're aware, there are also other funding opportunities that pay for students to take college courses, and you may have heard of Early College Credit Program or Start College Now. We also have some other agreements like the CAP program, and students or families pay for some of that. Your district is going to have a variety of opportunities. We still need to collect all of the coursework and grades. So we need to set up a course and we need to collect the final grade on all of those dual enrollment type courses that are taught outside of your school, but the student gets dual high school and college credit, as well as those courses taught in your building for dual enrollment. So dual enrollment is set up the same way as the rest of your in-house courses, except you probably will just have an instructor of record for any course taught at a college instead of the professor's name, because we don't employ those professors or instructors. We have somebody in our district that transfers the grade in, and so you can put that person in your district as the instructor of record for those dual enrollment courses. All right, so I am going to, 1 second. We're going to talk about roster real quick and some organization, and then I'll turn it over to Qmlative. All right, so roster, you heard me mention about this courses download. So on this slide, I have a snippet of the courses webpage from DPI, and this is where you find the courses download. So here's the link, and then I have a box around the 21-22 and the 22-23. Okay, so depending on the year you're working on, you can utilize that Excel spreadsheet. Just so everybody's aware, each year, whoever the makers of Cte are, they do a couple of updates. These are very large files. I never know which one is being updated. I usually find out that a code updated because I get an error in Wise Data Portal, and that's totally acceptable way of finding updates. All right, so this is a snippet of what the Excel spreadsheet looks like. And when I am working with CTE teachers on the Carl Perkins grant, we go over this with them. So this is the one place where we have some common language and that they can help you identify the course and the codes, either Cte or roster, that defines the course. This is how they can help you by picking out their own codes and then providing that to the data entry personnel so they don't waste so much time going through this whole Excel document. Okay, so just some quick tips. I like to start with column F. I like to sort the entire Excel document by column F, CTE course, so that it says yes on top and that I only let my CTE teachers look at CTE courses. If it says no here, then my CTE teachers should not even be looking at it because it's out of their realm. It's out of their department. Okay. Column G is the CTE career pathway type. This is very important for Carl Perkins in that your CTE teachers, your team, are creating career pathways in that Carl Perkins application. So they need to go back and forth and review their data and compare it to what career pathways they're developing in their meetings, as well as what career pathways they have listed in their Carl Perkins application. And they should be listing all of the school's career pathways in their Perkins application. And then I did go over quickly Rigor. So what I mean by Rigor is if we are reading Cte codes, you will see here's the letters to define Rigor. And I really lean on my teachers and my instructional teams to determine Rigor for their courses. So if you were reading roster codes, you'll see that the name of this course was replicated 5 times and the numbers go up because the rigor is going up. Okay, so just be aware that's how we're differentiating between roster and Cte. They can be translated back and forth, and you just hear me blur them all together. Okay. This column J, this deprecated column, and it says NA, it means it's not applicable. This column tells me when a code is retired. It would give me more information other than the NA. And if there was something in here, it usually gives me a suggestion of a new code to use. That's also a way to find out if a code is no longer being used, is to look in column J. And then anybody new to this form, this is a snippet, so I can't exactly show you, but I can describe it to you. Column D is the description of the course. So usually it just says one word because you just need to click on it. And if you're in Excel, you would just read the whole paragraph above. Okay. All right, so I told you that I have a way of organizing this. This is how we work with our CTE teams. This is how I present to them, and then it is up to them to follow this. So it is important because as I read Carl Perkins applications, we look for them to provide similar information. And so if they can actually provide information for one, their application, but two, give it to data entry to enter correctly, it's going to make the data reflective of what's in their application and what they are teaching in the classroom. So when you get a copy of this, this is the roster work plan. This is row 1. You can actually use row 1 for all courses in your school district for organization. So you have a link here to this, and then I'm just going to quickly go through it. So if I was in district, I would add a bazillion more rows, but for demonstration purposes, I only have 1 row. And I would list the course name and list the real course name, not the nickname, just to make sure everybody's clear on what the actual name is. That's very helpful. Then I would have the teacher list the roster state Cte code, and if they didn't know where to find it, I have it hyperlinked right here so they can find their codes. I always have them list the grade level just because we do have districts and schools that have combined middle high schools, especially when we're talking CTE. Carl Perkins is very specific to grades 9 through 12. And so if I had a middle school course, I typically don't use CTE course codes in middle school. For one, middle school usually is exploratory courses. So that's a separate conversation that's outside of Perkins. Okay. Programs, I have the teacher list the programs. Your programs options specifically for CTE are going to be certified career education, non-certified career education, and dual enrollment. Okay, and you'll see world languages on here, and that's because that's a separate collection for world language, and I use this generically for all presentations. So our CTE teachers should be aware of what certified, non-certified, and dual enrollment means, and if they don't, they have the links right here to define that for them. Okay. Also, the teacher license is important, and I brought that up already. Have them state their license, that they are properly licensed in a CTE area. This saves you time. You can look every single teacher up through DPI's ELO because it is public record for all of our teaching licenses. So, but it's also really easy to just ask the teacher because they know what they're licensed in. Okay, so again, CTE courses must be taught by a licensed CTE teacher. And then we talked about performance-based conversion type. This is just a reminder that we need to grade our courses. So there's really nothing to list. It's just, yep, we need to grade our courses for it to come through in our data. Okay, and every once in a while, we do have discussions about why we are not grading courses. And if you have that as an example, you can always contact me and we can discuss if that should be or shouldn't be a thing. I also talked about dual enrollment. So there are a variety of dual enrollments, ones that are taught in the building, ones that are taught outside of the building. But bottom line is the teacher needs to inform you that it's a dual enrollment class and who the partnership is with. Is it with UW? Is it with a private school? Is it with a tech school? And that this is a spot to define that. And then I spoke briefly about advanced placement or international baccalaureate. This is really a checkbox to say, is my course AP or IB? If they are, there is very specific roster state sched codes to use, and that's it. And then we will talk about IRCs and work-based learning later. So right now is where I'm going to turn it over to Qmlative to let them demo what it looks like in their SIS.
All right. So the first thing I wanted to start out with is we have a screenshot of the CTE documentation in the Help Center. So if after this webinar you have any questions or you need, you just needed a little more information, if you search CTE in our Help Center, it'll pull up the documentation for creating CTE records. So CTE setup in Skyward is based on the curriculum. So it's in the curriculum module, and then you'll click on curriculum under features. Then there's going to be a line with your curriculums, a browse screen, and you'll want to click on the arrow in the circle to open up that curriculum, and you'll see this screen. And on the left-hand side, we'll want to click on curriculum years. And then you'll want to click on the arrow in the circle for the appropriate curriculum year so that you open up that year. In that year, there is the state course code. But since we're only talking about CTE codes, I wanted to point out that when you click the down triangle for that course code, there is a filter you can click on, and you would clone your Skyward default, and I'm sorry, that is behind the screenshot. But then in that filter, you can go to the CTE course column name and then just click on selection and then select true. That way, when you're looking at your state course codes, all you're going to see is your CTE courses, and you can see that there's a filter here, and it's all of the checkboxes are checked for CTE course. Just like she spoke about the Rigor letter, they are under the state course code. We have our codes attached to with the Rigor letters, so you can see the difference, and you'll want to make sure that you're selecting the correct one. And the state will know which are the IB and AP courses based on the EdFi codes that are going to send with the course code. You're not going to see that, but they will know. So in this curriculum years area, once you select a state course code that is a CTE code, you're going to have these options. So if you come into this area before, and this is blank, you're not going to see these 4 options at the bottom. But you'll see right under the state course code that there is a dual credit option, so you can check that checkbox there if needed. And you also have, when they come up, you'll have your CTE program type you can select here, your state career education program, state instructional area code, and the state program area. So when you create your course, you have to attach a curriculum to it. So then when you attach the curriculum to your course, it's going to default in those state course codes. But in the scheduling course area, when you open up a course, you'll see that you're able to override that information if you need to. And then another part of the setup is your grade marks. So in the grading module and then grade marks under codes, you'll want to make sure that your grade marks are appropriately marked for used and earn and used and fail. And that's all I have so far about the setup, and I'll turn it back over to Jessica.
Perfect. All right, give me 1 second to switch screens. Okay, so now you should see the Cte Concentrator screen from me. We're going to talk a little bit about Cte Concentrators. So the Carl Perkins Grant creates a subgroup of students from your school that we call Cte Concentrators. These are students that meet the Perkins 5 definition of a Cte concentrator as a student who has completed at least 2 Cte courses in a single career pathway throughout their high school career. And these career pathways are designed by your school. So districts should review and ensure the 2 Cte courses in a career pathway should not include any exploratory or career exploration courses or courses that are required for all students to take as part of high school graduation requirements, or courses that students have no choice in the matter of taking, that it's required for all. More information on this can be found in the Perkins 5 Cte Concentrator Guide that is also linked at the end, or it's linked right here on the screen, but it's also at the end of the presentation. And your Cte coordinator, every district has a Cte coordinator, whether it's somebody you hire in the district or you partner with a CISA. And they get this information every year from DPI to remind them. And so it's important that if you are unsure about the definition of a Cte concentrator, that you're connecting with that Cte coordinator who organizes your Carl Perkins grant to make sure you understand. And you're always welcome to connect with me so I can help you find that person. The definition of a Cte concentrator changed from 3 to 2 Cte courses when the feds updated from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. And the federal government updates Perkins roughly every 5 years. So we are in Perkins 5, and that was started in the 21-22 school year. So other than that, other than the change from 3 courses to 2 courses, there really hasn't been any other big changes. So this means that districts will still continue to report Cte concentrators for students in grades 11 and 12. And you may have heard this magic rule, once a concentrator, always a concentrator. That is still happening. For those who may be new to this rule, once a concentrator, always a concentrator, it means that if a student was reported as a concentrator in grade 11, that in grade 12, you would continue to report that student as a concentrator. So even if that student did not actively participate in any Cte courses in their senior year, they would still be a concentrator because they had 2 or more courses prior to that year. In addition, you would also need to manually record them as a concentrator for each 11th grade and 12th grade year. Okay? There's always a manual decision that a human has to do. Cte concentrator summary details. So data analysis of concentrators for the Carl Perkins reporting is based on career pathways offered by your individual district and how many students become concentrators. So again, your Cte team is creating career pathways, which are a collection of courses, so 2 or more courses in each pathway, and then students register for courses, and that's how they get basically how they get their 2 or more courses in a pathway is by being scheduled and completing and passing those courses. And I mentioned this before, but your CTE team working with the Carl Perkins grant is creating and indicating in their grant application the career pathways that are being taught in your school. These career pathways are determined by size, scope, and quality indicators through a process called a comprehensive local needs assessment. For data reporting, you're asked to identify 2 or more courses that go into each career pathway designed by your CTE team. So the reason I keep repeating that is sometimes I get questions about, well, this student took these courses in a career pathway, but it doesn't match what they want to become after they graduate. And that is okay. They chose to take the courses in the pathway, then they can become a concentrator in that pathway. In Perkins 5, it does not matter if the student is going to go into that pathway after graduation or not. It's the fact that they got to pick their classes in high school and that they took 2 or more courses in your school's designed career pathway. So when you are creating career pathways, you are creating them using IAC codes. IAC stands for Instructional Area Code. A single instructional area code ties multiple courses together into a career pathway. Your student information system has specific directions to assist with this identification. In WISE Data Portal, you will review the Cte Concentrator export to see that data is coming through to WISE and to DPI. The CTE team can also review this information in WISE Dash for District to make Perkins data decisions. You can also sit with your CTE team and review this work together, and I highly encourage that. I highly encourage individuals who input this data into the student information system, have WISE Data Portal access and WISE Dash for District access, that is a CTE team, those could be multiple individuals, to review this data at least twice a year. Because we want to make sure our IAC codes match the career pathways that are being listed in the Carl Perkins application. If we have 16 different IAC codes and our Carl Perkins application only has 4 career pathways, it doesn't make sense because each IAC code represents a career pathway. So if we only have 4 pathways written into Carl Perkins, normally we have 4 IAC codes. Okay. You also can utilize regional career pathways, and usually regional career pathways go hand in hand with Carl Perkins career pathways. Okay, so back to my roster work plan. When you gain access to this, there is a second row. And so this is really the work of the CTE team. They are collecting this and they are indicating it in a narrative fashion in their Carl Perkins application. So this should be easy to work with those teachers to gain this information. Okay. So I'm just going to go through it real quick. First, have the CTE team name the career pathway. They legitimately should name the pathway. And I'll show you in a moment when we talk about IAC. Like I'm going to use agriculture, for example. There is probably 20 different types of agriculture pathways. Your teacher is probably teaching to one of them. Okay? So name it. Have them pick a single IAC code to represent the name of that pathway. Some of your CTE teachers still use clusters. That's fine. That's why I put it on here, just so they can double check that they match. Okay. Then have your CTE teachers tell you specifically what courses go into the career pathway. It is a requirement in the Carl Perkins application that whoever is writing it lists your courses that go into that pathway. So this should not be any extra work for anyone to be able to list them out, because they have to do it and turn it into DPI each year. So I only have 2 courses listed here because for presentation purposes, it's just easier that way. And the minimum is 2 courses per pathway. Usually when I read Perkins applications, I see way more than 2 courses. So you guys can add extra rows on to have all of your CTE courses for that pathway listed. And then this white box is the program, parentheses, department area. And so it is important to list that so we don't get confused. And this goes back to CTE courses. What are the 6 departments, which I just used some cheat sheet notes right here and listed them A, B, M, F, T, and H for ag, business, marketing, family and consumer science, tech ed, and health science. And again, art classes, music, world language, math, they are not CTE, okay? And then we've already gone over dual enrollment because they can tell you, they should continue to tell you, but they would have pulled it from row 1 and brought it down. And I'm going to go over the rest of these in a few other slides later. So the next slide is to show you where the IAC code download is located on the DPI website. And again, the reason I bring this up is this is the document that our teachers are working with, because they don't usually have access into student management in Skyward. So this is the snippet of the IAC webpage at DPI, and here's the link. And you will see that we have not updated IAC codes in multiple years, so we are continuing to use this 1920, 2021, 21, 22, and we will be using the same one for 22, 23. This code list, so you would download that and it would look like this. Okay, so the big thing that I like to point out on the download for IACs is here's column A, here's the actual IAC code that represents a cluster. And within a cluster, there's multiple areas. That's why there's multiple codes. So we need to know from the teacher that you have an agriculture cluster, great, but which one do you have? And that IAC code represents a specific area. Okay, and there's many more. This is just a small snippet. The other thing that we need to be consciously aware of is if we pick, and I'm going to use this first line for an example, if we pick 3.03 fishing and fisheries science, it's in the agriculture cluster. This column E needs to match column G on the roster state sched download. And the only way you can do that is by reviewing these downloads or waiting to see if you get an error in WISE Data Portal. The reason I bring that up is, and I pick on ag for this example, is because sometimes I have ag and tech ed teachers that teach within each other's departments. They're dual licensed, or some of the ag can be tech ed, some of tech ed can be ag. But that also means that we could have different career pathways being offered. So I need to make sure that these match. Otherwise, I need to pick different codes. I need to ask my teacher to go back and pick a different code so that the IAC properly matches the roster. Okay. All right, I'm going to quickly go over work-based learning. So work-based learning, again, there's 2 web pages. One is the WISE Data Element web page, and this goes over the different years and what we are collecting. But your teachers need to be aware of the 6 criteria, and that's it. Your teachers, if they say their course is work-based learning, their course must meet all 6 of these criteria. Otherwise, it's not work-based learning. And we'll go in a second to non-certified. So if it's not work-based learning, you would not send it to us as a non-certified course. And here's where I'm going to go to the next slide. So work-based learning is collected through either non-certified career education programs or certified career education programs. So if your teachers are utilizing language in their course title, like internship, supervised agricultural experience, simulated worksite, school-based enterprise, entrepreneurship, student business, these must meet the 6 criteria in the previous slide. They are called non-certified career education programs. They are called that because your school district locally created them. Your teacher created all the curriculum. It's up to that teacher to meet the 6 criteria. But if they want to use these definitions and mark it as non-certified in the course setup, then it has to meet work-based learning criteria. If it doesn't, I'm going to tell you to pick a different name and not code it non-certified. It's that easy. Okay. So there is a web page to define this. There is Career Education Programs 21-22, download a document with definitions of what each of these bullet points are, and that you can use and also work with your teachers to use. Okay. So the next slide is certified career education programs. Anytime you have youth apprenticeship or DPI occupational state, it's a state co-op, DPI occupational, the state co-op, DPI employability skills, these are automatically work-based learning because these are the curriculum being used is being developed by either DWD or DPI, and we ensure that it meets eligibility of the 6 criteria for work-based learning. And there is an extra step for certified career education programs. The extra step is called certificated program status. So at the end of the grading period for that course, the final grade, you would need to go in and indicate the certificated program status, which is a letter A, B, C, or D, to tell us the progress that student made in earning that certificate, okay? Industry recognized credentials are also usually governed by a Wisconsin technical college. They can offer technical diplomas and associate's degrees, or there's business and industry that has industry recognized credentials, or there's ones called not state approved. Your local area could create their own. Any industry recognized credential also has to have a final step at the conclusion of grading called certificated program status to tell us the progress the student made in earning that certificate. Okay, so YA, DPI occupational, DPI employability skills are automatically work-based learning. Industry recognized credentials are not work-based learning. Non-certified in the previous slide, you will send to us if they meet the work-based learning criteria. If they do not meet the work-based learning criteria and non-certified, rename it something else and don't use the same names. It will just confuse you and it's not work-based learning, okay? So I just briefly spoke about that certificated program status, the letters at the end of each semester, term, the year, however you have your courses set up. For those students earning certified learning, you just have to go in and indicate A, B, C, or D, and that's the status of their progress of earning that certificate. Personally, I would make this the thing you do the day after we release students for the school year. Because then literally you can get a collection of all their grades. They should be submitted, they should be done. And before the teachers leave for summer break, a list of students that completed the certificate for certified learning, and you can go into each student and indicate which letter grade they are for their progress. Okay, this is only collected for grades 9 through 12 again. So this is the second part of row 2. Again, we already spoke about dual enrollment. Career education programs goes back to, is this course non-certified or certified? So they need to name it for you. Certified has to do with YA, employability skills, DPI occupational, and non-certified, they would be telling you if it's an internship, local co-op, supervised ag, simulated school-based enterprise, or entrepreneurship. Let the teachers tell you that. And then this is the box to remind them that to be able to send that data properly to us, then it needs to meet the 6 criteria for work-based learning for non-certified. And then this white grayish box is to remind you at the end of the completion of the course that we do need to go back in for those students and identify their progress. Okay, so this is my organization method that I would encourage schools to use. I'd also encourage it to keep an archive of it, because we get many inquiries from school districts saying, well, the data is right in my student information system today. And I will say, but your data wasn't right as of the snapshot. That's why it's reporting on school report card the way it is. And why you're in Carl Perkins' accountability reports, it came back that way. Somebody changed it in your student information system after the snapshot to correct it, but it doesn't count. So you have to get this done before the snapshot so that it comes to DPI in time. All right. From here, I am going to turn this over to Qmlative to let them give you a demo.
Okay. Oh, and it didn't go to the right screen. Sorry.
Nope, you're okay.
So here, we already saw this screen, but I just wanted to point it again because she talked about the IAC codes and the program area codes. These are within the curriculum year. So when you open up your curriculum and go into the I can't say it right now, curriculum year, and you'll have to select your CTE state code, and these will appear. So then you'll select the program and your IAC code. So within the student's profile, in the special programs area, we do have a CTE subtab. And here it'll let you know about the concentrator. So the concentrator calculates for you in Skyward. And if there is no, courses or concentrator, this blue line up here will let you know that it only applies, that concentrators only apply for 11th and 12th graders. Kind of in the middle of the screen here, you'll see that you'll have an area where you can add the non-course CTE programs for students. And on the bottom half of the screen here, you will see any CTE courses that the student is enrolled in. And the state will know which course is a work-based learning. It'll be based on the state codes. So if we click on the arrow in the circle, oh, sorry, if we click on in the top right to add the non-course CTE, it's going to pull up this screen where you're going to be able to select if this is a certified CTE program type or a non-certified CTE program. And based on what you select here, you'll have your different options below. If we go back to this screen, and then if you'll see here too that you have that down triangle when you create that non-course CTE. This would delete it if you accidentally created it in error. But then down here, if you click on the arrow in the circle, you can open up that record for that course. And you'll see that we do have overrides here for the state reporting area. If you change any information here or override the information here that is sending to the state, it is just going to be for that individual student and the course that you're on right now. It won't affect anyone else if you override the information here. Okay, now back to Jessica.
All right, thank you. Let me just get set up again. All right, you should be seeing my screen for single parent, and single parent is part of the Carl Perkins data collection. So single parent status is for students in grades 11 through 12 for federal data reporting like Carl Perkins. The definition of a single parent is any student who is unmarried or legally separated and has sole or joint custody of a minor child or children at any point during the reporting year. This includes single pregnant women. Please know that this information is highly sensitive and confidential. In fact, this does not even appear in the dashboards of the Secure Wise Dash for district. And again, I'm going to remind you, we do use this for Carl Perkins. And so you could have a CTE coordinator or your CTE team asking you about this because they have to ensure that single parents have access to CTE coursework, and that also that we're encouraging them to be at school, but also graduate and obtain employment. So the one thing that I want to remind you about is that we are only collecting this for students in grades 11 and 12. So even if a person becomes a single parent in 9th, 10th grade, you can submit that in your student information system at any time, but it's only going to be calculated for Carl Perkins when that individual becomes an 11th and 12th grader. The other thing is the level of confidentiality about single parent status is that I would be very careful about emailing any of this around. And so typically the people that know who single parent status or single parents are would be like your school counselor, your school social worker, your school nurse. Those are typically positions that work with those children, those students. And that when we are doing this, we might need to go and talk to them, jot the list down, go in and enter it into Skyward, or have them enter it into Skyward, and then make sure you shred any lists, but I would not email that around due to confidentiality. Okay, and then when your CTE coordinator, it needs to know that information to desegregate data, it is okay to share that with them. So I'm going to turn that back to Skyward so they can show you where it's entered.
It goes back to the first screen each time. Okay, so the single parent, we have that in the student profile, and it's under the special programs area, and there is a single parent subtab. And there'll be an ad in the top right of the screen. And what it'll bring up is your start date. So you'll want to enter the start date, and you can enter an entry comment if you'd like. And then later on, if you need to come in here, you can open up the record. It'll be a line where you can click on the arrow in the circle, and you can enter your end date and your exit comment if you'd like. And if this is an area that you don't want everyone seeing, this is based on security settings. So you would be able to, or whoever sets up your security would be able to be selective about who would see the single parent subtab. Back to you, Jessica.
All right, thanks. All right. So you should be seeing on my screen the snapshot date. And so I'm just going to go over some last tidbits with you, and then we can stop the recording and then answer any questions. So the snapshot date will be Tuesday, December 6th of 2022. And again, this covers the 21-22 school year. And specifically today, we're talking about CTE career education and part of roster. Just some tips and reminders. I encourage everyone to review data errors in Wise Data Portal on a regular basis, I would encourage reviewing sooner than later. I kind of have a rule of thumb that this 2021 data errors should be wrapped up and done before Thanksgiving, because we come back from Thanksgiving break, we have a week, and then it's the snapshot, and then it just feels super rushed. So I would encourage sooner than later. You will resolve all of your errors in the student information system. So you might be seeing error messages in WISE Data Portal, but you will resolve all of your errors in Skyward. And then the magic, the secret is if you are changing data, you will need to resync. New data flows very easily to WISE. Changed data usually requires a resync to rewrite over the old data. In WISE Data Portal, you do have the capability to acknowledge warnings. That is purely an organization method built for the schools. Acknowledging a warning does not send DPI any message about anything. It just moves a warning off of your to-do list and puts it in a acknowledged list. It's to help multiple users understand who's working on what. So just be aware of that. Only acknowledge the warning if it's been resolved to help organize yourself. And then new updates or changes made to the data, again, I can't say it enough, should be resynced and sent to DPI. It does not automatically flow when you change data. Okay. Here are many of the links that I had throughout the presentation. You are welcome to share these. And then data privacy and security reminder. So school districts should be providing data security and confidentiality training on an annual basis. And if not, I did link here the DPI data privacy training so that you're aware. That's why I give reminders about not emailing this. It is acceptable to sit in a conference room and work as a team and show each other the information in the portal. It is not okay to email the exports around because of the confidentiality. And then if you need help, WAMs and Secure Home, that has to do with logging in initially to the WISE Data Portal. If you need help with logging in and your username, password, and WAMs, this is the link. If you are in WISE Data Portal or WISE Dash for District and you're not understanding an error or warning, we have a help desk here at DPI, and the customer service team will assist. You're also welcome to email me, jump on the first Friday, or excuse me, the first Thursday of the month office hours, or schedule an appointment with me to talk specifically about CTE career education, WISE data errors and WISE Dash for District. But you are also welcome to put tickets into our customer service team. And with that, Andrea, do you have anything else you want to add? Otherwise, if not, I'll stop the recording.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, give me a second and I will end the recording and then we can open it up.